What is philosophy? And you may think that that's a pretty boring question because most of us, what we're thinking of is some strange fella, probably keeps to himself, doesn't really have a lot of friends, kind of smells, and just reads all day, all by himself in his own little room. And that's philosophy. Well, that is probably what a lot of people are encountering here in these days, but that's not the case during the time of Socrates. Now, how is Socrates going to answer what is philosophy? Well, believe it or not, it got him killed. So we learned about this from a writing by Plato. Plato wrote a book called Apologies. Now, or Apology. Now, apology would be more correctly understood not as asking for forgiveness or saying sorry, but more of saying this is the defense in a trial that Socrates gave for defending his philosophy. So, answering the question, what is philosophy, is really going to be for Socrates asking, what is the philosophical life? What does it mean to live your philosophy? And then what is that philosophy? And what is philosophy? And so Socrates is going to answer that for us through his defense. So let me give you some background, some context. So we have Socrates, 70 years old, a veteran of some Athenian wars. And here he is now, an old man, and he's making his way up into a theater that has about 500 citizens that are going to judge whether he is guilty or not guilty of two accusations. Now, these accusations were brought by three accusers, but Miletos is the one that's going to be talked about in the apology. That being the reason being is because, um, tell you the truth, I'm not sure why he picked on him. I guess he had a bone to pick. Socrates had a bone to pick, particularly with this one. But it's quite fun, good reading. So, what are these accusations brought before? So, the first accusation is that Socrates is impious to the gods, that he's an atheist, the nerve. And so this is a particularly interesting uh, uh, accusation made against him because the accusation is defeated so easily within one or two pages of the 20 pages that makes up this book. Um, Essentially, how Socrates defeats that one is simply by showing it's a really common fallacy. It's called the fallacy of contradictory premises. Essentially, Miletos was trying to say that Socrates both doesn't believe in the gods, but he does believe in these other type of gods, and that's not right. And so he's essentially saying, or Socrates essentially showed him, listen, can't be an atheist and believe in gods, even if they're strange and otherwise. So something has to give, and either way, one of the things drops and makes everything contradictory. So obviously that one fell through. Good laugh for everyone, though I doubt very many hars in the crowd. So second accusation. This is the one that takes the far majority and the far more interesting answer, which is really going to reveal what is philosophy is through Socrates' perspective. And so this accusation is that Socrates is it's a twofer. The second accusation says that Socrates is corrupting the youth. Well, okay, well, how is he corrupting the youth? He's teaching them how to make the weaker argument stronger. Now, what does this mean? It means that, well, it seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? So, corrupting the youth, how's that done? It's by showing that these arguments that actually aren't very solid, that don't have sure footing, are being propped up, and little games are being made in order to make it appear that these arguments are actually on sure footing and are stronger than the correct arguments. Now, this is something pretty common with lawyers and with a lot of others who would want to try to defend a position that's pretty indefensible. It's something that we see politicians do quite often. And as I said, you do hear it in the courtrooms as a requirement to defend an indefensible defendant. But that having that capacity to do that corrupts the person who's trying to do it, because the intention is not to find out what's true or what's right or what's good. What the intention is to find your advantage, to be able to mask what is right and what is true with what you're trying to deceive the person into believing is right or true. Now, this is a sure way to corrupt the youth if you are actually teaching them to make this weak argument stronger. So Socrates is going to explain with the rest of Apology why this is not so, why he's not corrupting the youth and he's not making the weak argument stronger. So he begins by a story. The story is about a good friend of his who's passed away by this time, who had gone to the Oracle of Delphi. Now, what the Oracle does, communicates with the gods, and through that able to sometimes see the future, sometimes reveal hidden knowledge, and sometimes give pretty good advice. And in this particular case, the friend of Socrates went to the Oracle of Delphi and asked the question, is anyone wiser than Socrates? And what really blew the socks off Socrates is that the Oracle said, no one's wiser than Socrates. Tippy top, cream of the crop. And so, like I said, this really confused him. And so what he said upon hearing this from his friend, that this is what the Oracle said, he said, what in the world does the god mean? What in the world is his riddle? For I know in my conscience that I am not wise in anything, great or small. Then what in the world does it mean when he says, I'm wisest? It doesn't make sense. And he knows the Oracle's not incapable of lying. I mean, he's talking to God, so this doesn't seem right. Not saying the Oracle lies, just saying you got it wrong. And you know what? This is what Socrates decided to do. He's going to prove it. He's going to go leave his house and find these other fellas, these other citizens of Athens, who were way smarter than him, way wiser. And so he says, you know what? I know just the guy. So he does not name who this person is. The obvious reason coming forth. He goes and finds this order, and it appears that the dialogue comes something in the way of what is good, what is the good, what is good, what is beauty, what is the beautiful, like how is that defined? And so that answer is given, and then what begins to be developed is the Socratic method of cross-examination. And so he gives this answer. He says, okay, well, what about this? Doesn't quite work here. Then an answer is given. He's like, and then it goes back and forth until at the end of it, no one's happy. No one's satisfied. Particularly, the one who thought he was smart, and it turns out he looks pretty dumb. And then Socrates, who was trying to find out this thing that this person said to have known, and he comes up empty-handed. So, and he does this. So Socrates, after seeing that this fella doesn't have the answer for him, he said, well, clearly I made a mistake. This fella just simply doesn't know. He has all these people who says he's wise. That guy particularly thought he was wise. Turns out he's not wise. He doesn't have it with him. So he then goes to statesmen. He goes to poets. He goes to other orders, and on and on and on. He's asking all these different people, what is justice? Like what is good? I mean, come on, like these are really basic questions here. And as Socrates is going about asking these things, he's realizing, man, these people don't know. They don't have a clue what's going on here. And so the gears start turning. He starts thinking that the thing the Oracle of Delphi said, I still not fully convinced. I think there's a little tricky thing going on here. This is what he said. He says, I guess I am wiser, but only in this little way. that I that what I do not know, I don't think I do. So this is where he's like, okay, the Oracle of Delphi, maybe he's what this oracle is trying to say is that I'm wise insofar as that I don't pretend that I'm wise. I don't pretend to know things that I don't know. And so maybe this makes me wiser. And so that's his defense, and why he had embarked on this journey of philosophy, of asking these people, cross-examining. Um, and this was an aspect, the Socratic method of these questions, of cross-examining these very basic principles. This is one of the aspects that that went into the accusation that he was corrupt in the youth, because essentially what happened was Socrates was not teaching anybody. Like, he was not telling these youth what to do. He was very adamant about that. He said, if they learn anything from me, they're lying. But mainly what it is that they're just copying him. Because who doesn't like a great show where someone really famous is made look like an idiot, right? So these youth are copying the Socratic method, and making everyone upset. Everyone who thought that they knew something or had authority on some type of topic, then kind of caught with the pants down, and they say who did it, and it was Socrates. They don't like him. So this is one of the portions that says Socrates is corrupting the youth, making the weak argument stronger. So another part of this philosophy, this way of living that Socrates is going to use to his defense, is the idea that that through this method of asking these questions, by going and using the Socratic method of cross-examination, is forcing the individual asking the questions to then examine themselves and see, what do I not know? And that is very uncomfortable, very difficult. As for my personal story, I had a group that I was following. I pursued after it. I really thought that it was correct and it was the right thing to do. Far down the line, realize I'm a dummy. I should have seen the little red flags the whole time, and I didn't. So when I realized that I had dedicated up to that point pretty much my whole life to following this way, and realizing that I was wrong, that was pretty crushing. People talk about the floor falling out or the earth being turned over. That was me. Up was down, down was up, dogs and cats and all sorts of things. Nothing made sense anymore. And that can happen. But here's where Socrates comes in and says, that very thing that you just said, awesome. You should do that more often. Because what happens is not the particularly falling through the earth. You're not going to fall through the earth. Promise. What's going to happen is you're going to realize that you were wrong, and that having a wrong stance doesn't help anybody. I mean, maybe in the short term, maybe it kind of helps you get over a little hump of something, but on the other side of that hump is a really big debt to pay for that easy jump. And so what Socrates is saying is that you have this moral integrity to the reasoning that you're doing, in order to dig out the truth and what is correct and what is right, what is virtuous. And when you do that, you build and grow this inner citadel against the vices and things that aren't true, that are constantly bombarding us. We see it all the time, where you're trying to give a shortcut, or you're trying to go into try to go into a perspective that's just going to make you feel good about yourself, that doesn't really have any pillars in reality. And You can just live in this little happy land. Whereas if you were to use the Socratic method, have this moral integrity to challenge yourself and to follow what's right, you're going to find out that you're a lot stronger and that you're a lot more capable of a lot more things. And this is actually one of the things that Socrates says. He says that it's almost as if it's an eternal law that evil and bad people can't hurt good people. Now, of course, hurt physically, yeah, of course, no one's like immortal or anything. What he means is that you can't be touched by anyone. If someone says something mean or bad or tries to splatter your name, it's incapable of doing so, because the philosophy that he's advocating, what he says philosophy is, makes you untouchable. The only thing that can ruin you is you. And so he's trying to state that through the Socratic method, you are digging up all these bad things and these things that aren't correct, that don't have you aligning in the right way. And what you, while you do that, you're actually also uprooting other vices. Not doing anything or allowing yourself to retain incorrect information or incorrect positions is going to be a corrupting aspect. And so when you uproot that, when you seek after what is true, what is right, what is correct, you are going to be replacing those things with virtue, with strength and power and justice. Why is that important? That is a great question. A lot of people are going to say, hey, John, it's a lot easier down here where, you don't have to worry about stuff like that, which may be, well, if you were just going to go off what Socrates says, because he's not a great example. Spoiler, he dies. So his grand student, Aristotle, is going to share in his Nicomachean Ethics that when you have virtue embedded in your soul, that naturally bestows happiness. And happiness is what we all want in the end. Oh, no, I want a lot of money to be happy. I want to be beautiful to be happy. There's no getting around it. You want to be happy. And how do you be happy? You live a virtuous life. And so through the Socratic method, through this philosophy, you got those bad things in you. You got those corrupting, incorrect, wrong perspectives, wrong information, wrong beliefs. Uproot it, chuck it, get the good stuff in there, the virtues, the righteousness, the rightness, the justice. Get that in there, get your needle straight on your compass and follow after that, make you stronger, make you better, and makes you realize, helps you stand up against some accusations that you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Or helps you continue to say you don't know what you're talking about without lying to anyone. So, third and final method of that he's going to say he's not corrupting the youth. So first we got this Socratic method, cross-examination. He's saying that doesn't make it stronger. That's just trying to figure out where the strong arguments are. Second thing, I'm not trying to corrupt them. I'm trying to get rid of the corruption and replace it with something good. Now the third part is when what Socrates is trying to do is not make you feel bad. Yes, in this moment you feel horrible because you just realized everyone thought I was pretty smart on this thing and I'm dumb. Well, he's not there to make you feel bad about it. He's there to help you because, just as our bodies need to exercise, need to eat good food, need to make sure we're well hydrated and things of that nature, our souls need to, the way to heal, the way to have a healthy soul is to practice justice, to know, to follow after truth, to make right decisions, not the easy decisions, but make the ones that are right and make you untouchable to accusations of being vile or being not good guy. And so he actually shares a great little bit. Da, 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 da. So he's trying to say that when you achieve these good roots, when you get these positive results from virtue, what all you want to do is tell other people. All you want to do is help others. He says here in 30a of the Apology, all I do is to go about and try to persuade you, both young and old, not to care of your bodies and monies first, and to care more exceedingly for the soul, to make it as good as possible. So, completely contrary to what Meletos is trying to accuse him of corrupting the youth and making the weak argument stronger, he's doing directly the opposite and is saying, no, my whole purpose is to make you feel good, to make you stronger, to make you better, to make you more virtuous, and to make you a great citizen of Athens where no one can ridicule you. And you are going to know exactly what you think you know, and you're going to know what you don't know. And so he goes through all this. Voting comes. He's lacking. He's going to have to choose what to do. Are you going to be banished from Athens? Are you going to stop this whole Socratic method philosophy, this, that, the other thing, and just kind of die an old man in your own home? Or are you going to die? You're going to kill yourself. And he was he wasn't particularly offered that, because the nice thing about the Athenian justice system is that once you're found guilty, you get to choose your own method of punishment, or at least you're able to give some ideas. And to the idea of maybe just being quiet and in his own little home, he said, if you were to offer me that, here's what I'd say. Many thanks, indeed, for your kindness, gentlemen, but I will obey the gods rather than you. And as long as I have breath in me and remain able to do it, I will never cease being a philosopher. Because for Socrates, philosophy was not something you could separate from his very being. The very fabric of his soul, everything that he felt compelled to do was not necessarily because he wanted to do it. He felt that he was called by the God, and that he needed to find what's good and what's right and what's true. And I think we can all agree with that. We can all agree that once you start embarking on that path, it feels good, and you just want more. And that's not a bad thing. That makes you a good person, makes you a virtuous person, makes you capable of helping a lot of people and learning a lot of things too along the way. And so, and then those who are around you, it's a blessing. You're able to help those around you just by being the virtuous you that you are. And so uh, obviously that wasn't given to him as a choice, and so they say you're going to die. And later on, he did die. He took the hemlock, which is a poisonous drink from a goblet, and he was surrounded by other not really disciples, but people who learned from him, Plato being one of them. And that was Socrates living his entire life, all the way to death, to show what was his philosophy. And what is impressive is that when you get to that point and you might be asked, listen, I think kind of Socrates was wrong. I think he kind of probably should have shut up and gone home and just enjoy the rest of the short days that he had as an old 70-year-old. I think he should have done that. And what Socrates would have told you, which he does in, I believe, the 29a, is essentially saying that, friend, thanks for your concern. Appreciate what you're saying. Unfortunately, I think if you have even an ounce of integrity, what you would be asking is not what's going to save my life, what will feel comfortable for the moment. Instead, if you had a little bit of integrity, if you had a teeny bit of, goodness in you and justice, you would ask, what is the decision I should make? Or what is the decision a good person would make? What's the right decision? Is this, if I make this decision, does that make me a good person or does that make me a bad person? And whether that decision leads to death or life, good things or bad, or good things physically or bad things physically, so be it. Because nothing, nothing is worth uh, trading your integrity for in this life. And with that, Socrates took his philosophy and his integrity to the grave. And so the question then flips back to you. Are you willing? So all of us would give up our life for our country. We'd give up our life to save our family. If you have kids, always you would do it for the kids or the dogs. You would give up your life to protect them. But would you do it for righteousness, for what's right? Would you give your life for what's true? Would you give your life for virtue? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. Like, subscribe. I'll see you with another one later.